When you realize that you have created distance between you and your Lord, the first thing you have to do is you have to just have the intention to make tawbah. And part of that is just, number one, recognizing that there has been some type of spiritual injury. That's the first thing. Just recognize that there's been spiritual injury, okay? That this spiritual injury has separated you from yourself, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the Qur'an when He says, Ya ibadiya alladhina asrafu ala anfusihim. That we have, Allah is addressing those of us, all of us, that have committed a lot of sins, and we did it against ourselves, right? Asrafu, we transgressed, we went too far against ourselves. And then He gives us hope. La taqnitu min rahmatillah. Don't despair of the mercy of Allah, right? Don't despair, because He goes on to say, Allah forgives all sins. Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. Allah forgives all sins, okay? But what you have to do is that you have to become aware. I messed up. I need to fix this, okay? You separated yourself not only you separated first from yourself, from your true self, from your ruh, and also from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you have wronged yourself. And also with healing trauma, you have to recognize that there was some psychological injury. Be curious about yourself. Be really, really curious about yourself. Okay? Always asking yourself, how can I do better? And I'll talk about that a little bit later, right? But you just have to recognize that there was psychological injury, and it might manifest as self-suppression. The real you is underneath layers and layers and layers of trauma, okay? Or self-sabotaging behaviors. How many of us do this? We self-sabotage, man. A lot of different ways. You knew you had to study for that test 6 weeks ago, right? You delay, you procrastinate. Why? This is self-sabotaging. Be curious about why you do that. All right, inshallah. All right, number 2. There has to be nadam, regret. All right, this is one of the conditions of tawbah. Now, the thing is this. I'm not saying that you have to walk around being in a state of despondence, like, oh, look what I did. No. For the moment. Even if it's just a moment, just regret what you did, okay? And then use that regret as a catalyst towards being humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what's going to drive you to go and make those 2 rakats. Raise your hands and say, Rabbi qfirli. Oh my Lord, forgive me. Okay? Same with healing trauma. There has to be a recall. Sometimes this is the hardest thing, sometimes, to remember what we have been through, and nobody knows this better than me. All right? My father was very viciously killed when I was about 8 years old. And you have to understand that he didn't just disappear from our lives, but his case was in the newspaper. All right? Because he was kidnapped, and then they decapitated his head. They found his head in the Cleveland sewer first, and then they found the body later. Okay? I'm 8 years old. I'm reading this in the newspaper. This was the first time I experienced trauma, but I didn't know. Of course, I'm 8 years old, I didn't know. But on top of that, my mother remarried to a man. She got remarried to a man who was very, very abusive. He was abusive in every way you can think of. Verbally, physically, emotionally. He didn't take care of his duties. He was nothing like my father, nothing. The first time that he beat me and my sister, he beat us, I was 8 years old. He beat us so bad, hitting us on our butt and on the back of our legs. He hit us so bad, I couldn't sit down because the back of our legs were swollen. Wallah al-azim, I'm telling you the truth. All right? So to sit, because it puts you in a vulnerable position, to have to sit and recall that, to sit and think about a time when I could not protect myself. I couldn't help myself. So I understand this. I understand how difficult it is sometimes to just think about what happened. Okay, but the thing is that if you can't name it, you can't change it. Okay? You can't name it, you can't change it. So you have to learn how to sit with that pain. That is part of the healing process. If you just gloss over it, you won't heal. Okay? And it'll keep showing up in your life in different ways. All right? The third step, you have to commit to desist. And like I said, even if it's just for that moment. A man came to Hassan al-Basri. He's one of the very early Muslims. And both of his parents were Sahaba. But he was one of the great Imams, one of the great early Imams. And they came to Hassan al-Basri and the man said, "Ya Imam, what do you say about someone who commits a sin and then asks for forgiveness? And then he commits a sin and asks for forgiveness. And he commits a sin and asks for forgiveness. And even he does that 70 times a day. What do you say about that person?" Imam Hassan al-Basri, he said, "I only see him as having the true qualities of a believer." Okay? That's the deal. For the moment, just for that moment, that's what Allah is asking you for, is sincerity and regret in that moment. Even if you know 5 minutes later you're going to go and do the same thing. Okay? Just keep coming back. Don't focus on the sin. All right? Don't because you'll begin to hate yourself. Focus on Allah's mercy. Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. Allah forgives all sins. If you sin over and over and over and over and over again, Allah will accept your tawbah over and over and over and over and over again. He will accept it. But the condition is that you're sincere. Even if it's just for a moment. You regret. Even if it's just for a moment. And you make a commitment to do better.